Hello and welcome to Banya Chat. My name is Thomas Barnes and I'm here with Chido, the Managing Director at Banya.
Hi, Tom.
Hello, Chido. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. And today I'm going to be asking you to help me go through and answer some of these frequently asked questions about fostering.
Okay, great. Fire away.
Lovely. Thank you very much for being here, by the way. It's lovely to have you. Okay. So one of the questions that we have received was, am I too young or old to foster?
That's a good question, Tom. My response to that is you have to be an adult. So you'd have to be over the age of 18.
Okay.
Let's handle the too young side first.
Right.
So we do a Form F assessment on foster carer applicants, and we would look at your life and your life experience and able to look after children. I don't think that rules out younger people. They might have been a foster child themselves, or they might have grown up with foster brothers or sisters. So they might have the life experience that we're looking for. I think the only thing we would have to be mindful for is their circumstances. So for fostering, you need to have a spare bedroom. But otherwise, I can't think of any reasons why we would discriminate against a young person wanting to foster. And on the older side, it's not like we say, oh, this age is the maximum. What we do on our assessment process is have a medical done. So your doctor would medically assess you, and then they would send it to our doctor, who has the skills to do this kind of medical on a potential foster carer. And between the two of them, they would decide, are you medically fit to foster? So if you're an older person and you're still fit, then there's no reason why you can't foster.
Oh, that's lovely.
Okay.
So, when you say so there isn't really an age limit to fostering. As an older person, it's all about your ability, and your medical ability and physical ability.
Yeah, definitely, because a 60-year-old could be fitter than a 30-year-old.
That is true. I've seen some 60-year-olds that could outrun any 30-year-old. I know 60-year-olds that could outrun me.
Exactly. So that's my answer to those questions.
Yeah. And I know that you said that too young, and you said 18. And I know that some other fostering agencies they don't agree with the 18. They say 25.
Yes.
And others say different ages like 21 and
we don't actually say any age at Banya, because I'd say it's quite rare that an 18-year-old wants to foster.
Right.
But I think a 21-year-old wanting to foster could be just as good as somebody that's 25. You are an adult. You have been making decisions as an adult for quite some time. So I think we look at every case individually rather than saying no under 25s, no under 21s. We would look at it case by case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's an individual thing about life experience.
Yeah.
And of course, whether they have the space, because I know that most 18-year-olds are still living at home, of course.
Yeah. That's why I said, Tom, it's very unlikely that we're going to get any 18-year-old applicants.
Yeah. I mean, that brings us on to two of our next questions is about qualifications of fostering and home, and is your home suitable?
Okay.
Of course, you need the spare bedroom.
Yeah. So in terms of qualifications, you don't need any formal qualifications to apply to be a foster carer. However, you do need a good understanding of English, reading and writing it, because as a foster carer, you're going to be expected to keep a log of what's happening in the child's life that you're looking after, and you'll also receive emails or booklets from the local authority or from the fostering agency that you would need to be able to read, but no formal qualifications are needed. Once you become a foster carer, you are expected to do training throughout the year, because we do see it as a professional career, being a foster carer. So, you know, we might have a parent and child training, we might have a safeguarding training, we might have a standard of care training, and our expectations are that you attend these trainings so you know what to do to be able to look after the child. That also makes you stand out to the local authority, because they'll see that you have that training, and then they'll see that you can look after the child that they'd want to place with you. So that's the answer to that question, Tom. You don't need any formal qualifications, but you are expected to attend training, and you need to have a good understanding of reading and writing in English.
Yes. Yeah. And also there would, because of course there would be you're going to go to meetings and you're going to have to talk to people and all that, and you're going to have to pass on your notes and your logs. Yeah. And there's going to be a lot of phone calls and such as well. And also about is your home suitable?
Well, that one is, like you said, the main thing is that you have a spare bedroom, but we do a health and safety on your house. So your house needs to be deemed fit to look after a child and to be safe. So if you're having any sort of building work, or you have unfinished building work, that might rule you out, because it's just not a suitable home for a child.
At that time?
Yeah, at the time. Also, we expect it to be a warm, comforting environment. So, you know, we want the child to come into the house and feel that the surroundings make them feel safe and they feel comfortable within that home. We do have, we do say that in the spare bedroom, we want the child to be able to have a bed, a wardrobe and a desk. So if your room can't fit those things, that could also rule you out. Because we want them to be able to obviously keep their stuff in the wardrobe, sleep on the bed, and have a place where they can study.
And like, as you said, you want it to be warm and welcoming and safe, because we know that a lot of foster children come into care for their own safety, and we want to maintain that, and we don't want to put them into a place where they could be in danger, and obviously we want to keep the safety of them as our main priority.
Yeah, and I think we want a lived-in home. We don't want a home where it's picture perfect and somebody's constantly tidying around you. We just want like a lived-in, family feeling environment. So yeah, and obviously for it to just meet the health and safety standards that we have, which is your house being in a good order, and no major works needing to be done for you to be able to foster.
And of course, if there are major works, that can just be put your application on hold, on pause for a moment while those adaptations are being made.
Yes.
And then you can continue when it's completed.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, that's lovely. Another question is, a big question is, can I still work if I foster?
That's a good question, Tom. I think it's something that every potential applicant really needs to think about before they apply. So our guideline at Banya is, if you're going to be a single carer, and that means doing it by yourself, we would want you to ideally work part-time. If you're going to be double carers, doing it as a couple, then one of you can work part-time, the main carer can work part-time, and the second carer can work full-time. So that's something that you need to think about, where you work, whether you work for yourself. Can I manage working those hours and still afford my bills and be able to look after this child? So yeah, that's our guidelines. Obviously, sometimes we can tweak it a little, but it's not just us that's making the decision if you can become a foster carer. We have a board of panel members, and if you work full-time as a single carer, it will come up in your assessment and that panel that you might not have the time to foster.
Yeah.
At the same time, we don't want you to face financial hardship. Placements are not always guaranteed. You might go a couple of months where you don't have anyone to foster. So it's something you have to think about. Can I afford that? And is my work flexible enough for me to foster? Sometimes you have to take the child to contact or to a pet meeting at the school, or you might have to go to a LAC review. So all of those things happen in working hours. So that's another thing you have to think about when considering if you want to foster or not.
Yeah, and of course, like if like the flexibility is a big thing, and if you are working part-time, your work has to understand that you may need to be called away from work and for an emergency, or example, say the child fell over and injured themselves.
Yeah,
you would have to be there.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, work would have to be understanding of that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so that I think that's explained it very, very well. The
Thank
the work
you.
situation. So thank you for that. Another question is, what information is given about the child before they're placed with you? Because I believe that there's some misunderstanding that sometimes you may just get a child that you have no idea anything about.
Well, the thing about fostering is we're working with people, so things are continuously moving and changing. It's not like we're getting a computer, we're getting a human being coming into our house. It really varies the amount of information that we have on a child. So some children have been in care for quite a long time, and they'll have quite a detailed referral that we'll get, usually by email. And then there's other times where we get an emergency placement and the local authority might ring us in the middle of the night and say, can you take this child? And that's all we could know about them. Also, the nature of fostering is that when you look after this child, they might actually confide in you about something that's happened to them. And that could be the first time they've told anybody. So obviously, when we're doing our matching considerations, we want as much information on the child as we can get, but there has to be some flexibility if you're a foster carer, because underlying issues that haven't come up before can come up while they're in your care. And whatever information we do have on the child, if you say, yes, I would like to consider them, we will share this information with you in a sensitive way. And it will help you to make a more informed decision of whether I can look after this child or not. Yeah. So it really varies. I know the unknown can be scary, but you as a foster carer can have a massive impact on this person's life and can actually change their story for the better. So I think you need to remember that as well when thinking, oh, what information do I have on this child?
Yeah. And also, like I've remember we were speaking with Natasha and Gloria Blake a couple of weeks ago, and who have been long-term foster carers with Banya, and they were saying that even with you may have a very long, detailed report about a child, and or you, even if you have like one sheet of paper about this child, it's not necessarily what you read is what you're going to get, because
No.
like,
Yeah.
you know, they said they had a child, they I remember them saying they had a child that had, that on their report said these like challenging behaviors and such, but then he was good as gold.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree with them more. That's why it's another good idea to not judge the child before they come, and to leave it open. And just remember how much information you know about them and they've never even met you. So, you know, just to give it the benefit of the doubt. And yeah, it's finding the balance, because you don't want to take a child that you feel like after 1 week, oh my goodness, I can't look after this child. But sometimes it's just with fostering, you just don't know until you go through the experience.
And sometimes you just have to like, there, even if you get a child that said that they're very good, and then you may get the first week or 2 weeks as just very it might be a bit of challenging behavior. It's all new to them, and they might be scared. You're brand new, they're in a home that they don't know, they're with people that they don't know. And you know, they're worried, and you just need to settle them down and get to know them more. And then when you get to know them, their behavior will change again.
No, I agree, Tom.
Well, that, I think that's very helped inform a lot of people. And obviously, this is another question, is that I keep seeing, what support do foster carers get? What support does Banya offer their carers if, for example, they received a child that that portrayed challenging behavior?
Well, we operate a 24-hour phone line. So we always have a person on duty that is a social worker, and our carers can ring that number at any time and talk to us and tell us what's been happening. We don't just work alone as a fostering agency. So if a child was to go missing, we have a policy where you would report it to the police. So we work in partnership with the police. We also work in partnership with the schools. They will have a special educational plan that you would be made aware of if you became their foster carer. I actually think at Banya we offer great support. We're very flexible. We will listen to any of your concerns, however big or small you feel they may be. It's so important, because of the work that the foster carers are doing, that they do have that support, because it's a tough job, and without the right support, I think it can lead to placement breakdowns. So yeah, you also get a supervising social worker assigned to you. So how it works is, if you foster a child, they'll have a social worker from the local authority. And then our carers have a social worker assigned from us. So once a month you would have supervision with your social worker. Before, we used to come to your house. Now with COVID, we do it over Zoom. And yeah, you just go over everything you've been doing that month, whether you have a foster child or not. And that social worker is also there to talk to you during the week if you feel like you need to call them or email them. They are available to you. We also have respite. So when you want to go on holiday, we will, if you're looking after a foster child and you're not going with them, we would facilitate it that they go to another carer of ours, so you can have that break that everyone needs every now and again. So yeah. And we have monthly support groups. So that's a group of foster carers. We do it area by area, and before we used to just make it sort of like a coffee morning, but now again, because of COVID, it's on Zoom. and it's very much led by the foster carers. So we will sit in the support group, but it's for the foster carers to bring their issues or concerns and just share knowledge as well. So you might be dealing with, let's give you a typical example, a foster child that doesn't want to come off their phone and go to bed. You could talk to another foster carer about it at this support group, and they could say, oh, you know, I found this method really helped with getting them to come off their phone and go to bed.
Yeah.
So it's just sharing little tips like that.
Yeah. Well, that sounds amazing. So it's not just the foster carer and Banya, and it's the foster carers as a community come together to help each other as well.
Yeah, that's what we really want the nature of support groups to be.
Yeah.
Is for them to come together, because I work within fostering, but I'm not a foster carer. So sometimes you really just want to talk to someone else that can feel and understand what you're going through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone that's might be in your similar situation.
Yes.
And might have a solution to an issue that you don't know about.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can say from personal experience, like I mean the times that when I grew up in foster care with Banya, I had my challenging moments, and like Banya were always there to support my carers and always like on call. Like times at 11 o'clock at night my foster parents called, or times at 7 o'clock in the morning that my parents called. And there was always someone.
Well, thank you, Tom, and that feedback's really reassuring to hear.
Yeah. We do have one question we have in the chat. I think we should move on to that. If you contact, I think this is more towards the when you do the background checks.
Yes.
If you contact ex-partners when vetting, so doing your background checks, how long ago would they need to have been involved in your life? Because this my husband and her ex-wife, her ex-wife, or his ex-wife, split in 1989, and their children are now grown up. My son is living at home. Would his father need to be contacted?
In that context, yes, because he was your husband and you had children with him. So he's a significant ex-partner, however much time has passed. So for me, it's not a case of how much time has passed. It's how significant that person was in your life. It's a very sensitive topic, the ex-partners one. And I think we just have to kind of establish the type of relationship that you had, especially if you had children with them, because we're just considering the foster child that we would put in your home. So if there was any unresolved issues or it was amicable, we need to know that sort of information. Yeah.
So it's not about how long they've been apart. It's about how the involvement they are in the lives, because if they're still involved in your life, then they're still going to be involved in the foster child's life as well.
Yeah. And we would ask your ex-husband his views to you fostering and how you two get on now, if you even talk, the type of relationship he has with your children. So it would all be family-based questions. And it's the Form F assessment that we do is it is a very detailed look at your life, and we do cover some uncomfortable things, like you might have had a bereavement in the family, you might have been sick in your lifetime, and we need to know whether you've dealt with that, because if you haven't, it can impact the child. So you've just got to come into this process and be willing to be open, because if we get any feeling of you're holding back information, it's very hard for us to process you as a foster carer, because we need everything out in the open for you to be able to look after this child, for us to look after you and to look after this child.
And I think the follow-up question is if you're no longer have no contact with any exes, why would they need to be contacted? Is it important that they know of one's intent to foster?
Is it still the same context that they're your ex-husband?
Yeah, it's from the
had children with them.
So I think I think the question is about if you have an ex, a husband or just partner, that you had no longer have any contact with, and may not have had contact with for a significant period of time. Why is it important that you contact them?
If they were your ex-husband and you had children with them, it's for us to know how the breakup was, how that impacted on your children, whether your children still have a relationship with them. Because if they do, then that can have an impact on the foster child that's going to come into your household. So we need to know that information. If they're just an ex, and let's use the year 1989, and that's a long time ago, we're not going to contact that person. If you didn't have any kids with them, you weren't married to them. If your ex was in the last 5 to 10 years, and you were with them for a significant amount of time, then we would contact them, because they were a significant person in your life within a reasonable time span of when you want to foster. And I think, people can worry that, if we had a bad breakup, they're going to say something negative about me. And that's not what we're trying to root out, and to think, we're just going to listen to your ex. We just want to know the sort of relationship you had with each other, because they were significant to you at one point. And they should be able to tell us about your experience together, which paints a better picture for us of who you are and the life that you've led.